Well, today, folks, it's November 9th. It's been, as you know, 7 months since Lance has done anything to the house. And we are now entering the building where the Metropolitan Builders Association is. So we're going to start the mediation process. Now, mediation is not binding. And I don't expect anything to happen because, frankly, Lance doesn't feel like doing his job. Doesn't feel like following the contract, and I get it. But we're going to try it. Tried mediating with our lawyers. Lance didn't want to do it because it wasn't going fast enough, and that was 5 months ago. So every time Lance says something that, he doesn't want to do something because it's not going fast enough, it's not true. He just figures he wants to delay the process, and that's his right. So we're going to see how it works out. See you in a bit. It is now November 10th, and it is a Wednesday. There's frost on the ground. We're looking out at the pond in my backyard. It's about 12 acres, 13 acres in size, but that's not today's topic. Today's topic is what happened at the mediation yesterday. Well, it was a strange experience, to say the least. Lance Jochims' attorney showed up with him. His name is Tom. The mediator was there. His name's Steve, and my attorney, Anthony, was there. So there were 5 of us. We went out to a little place in Waukesha, Wisconsin, where the MBA, the Metropolitan Builders Association, has their office. Now, I've never been in mediation before, so I don't know. But what I did discover is that Lance was in mediation last year. And that's interesting because generally that information is super squirrel secret. You can't find it out. But Lance just blurted it out. We sat down and our mediator said, "Anybody familiar with this?" And Lance, without even missing a beat, said, "Oh yeah, I did this last year." Well, it's not something I would talk about if I had been in mediation, especially since Lance is not a big builder. He's not doing 100 buildings a year, 100 houses. He might be doing 5, 10. I don't know the exact number, but he is not a prodigious builder. So my attorney, Anthony, who does this stuff for a living, representing contractors and buyers like myself, said he has people who've built 1,000 homes who've never gone to mediation or arbitration. So to discover that my builder, Lance, did it last year, and he's a tiny, tiny builder, it's kind of interesting. Now, what does that mean? It means that I wasn't experiencing anything new or unique. That's the way I read it. So we sat down, we started talking, and it moved right along. We went through the list that had been prepared by us 5 months ago. And 5 months ago, we were near a conclusion and Lance pulled out. Said things weren't progressing fast enough. Now, 5 months later, we go to mediation. Mediation is not free. Mediation costs money. And thank goodness Lance is a member of the MBA. That's Mike Bravo Alpha, not to be confused with the basketball. So we only had to pay $500 a person. Now, $500 to me is a lot of money. But realize that when all this started, when Lance decided not to play well and work with others, the end result was, I said, Lance, when he was clearly starting to head towards a legal solution, I said, the worst thing you can ever do is hire a lawyer. If you can solve it on your own, solve it on your own. Lawyers are frightfully expensive. The impression I get is Lance hasn't had to purchase the services of legal counsel. And for those of you who already know it, this won't surprise you, the average attorney is about $300 an hour. And we're talking about driving time, phone time, and they bill in 10-minute increments. So they're dead serious about their money. So at the end of this mediation, I'm going to guess that Lance and I have collectively spent, each one of us, about $10,000. That's $10,000 $10,000. And that's a shit lot. That's a ton of money. In anybody's world, that's a ton of money. And the bottom line is we came to the conclusion that Lance is going to finish the house per the contract. So we went through 7 months of delays, and we each spent roughly, I don't know exactly what Lance spent, $10,000 to end up where we were on April 9th when Lance decided to walk off the job. So there was no record of the mediation. We did do the final paperwork. It is interesting that the original contract was subject to the MBA rules, Metropolitan Builders Association, rules that stated you had to resolve all issues with the Metropolitan Builders Association. And that's just the way the contract was written. And that's fine. But the new agreement, the one that basically says Lance is going to finish the house, is not connected with the Metropolitan Builders Association. So if Lance, excuse me, got a little cough. If Lance fails to do what he has contracted to do, we go directly to court. We do not stop at the MBA. Because one of the questions I was asking, excuse me, was there's no teeth in this. I've got a guy named Lance Jochims who basically quit on his own for no reason at all 7 months ago. And there's no consequences. Well, that's because the MBA mediation doesn't really have a lot of consequences. Mediation's purpose is sort of like, let's cut the baby in half and we'll go from there. Now, with this new agreement, I've unshackled myself from the wonderful world of mediation and arbitration. Doesn't mean I wouldn't do it should there be an issue in the future, but now I have teeth in this contract. Now, am I hopeful that Lance will follow through on the contract? Not at all. You know, they always say in the stock market that past performance is not indicative of future performance. My feeling is that people's past behaviors are indicative of future behaviors. And Lance's past behavior indicates that his responses are not very mature, not very well thought out. His focus tends to be money, and I respect that. The legal tender is important. I get it. But the outcome being as it is, we spent a ton of money, wasted months to be exactly what the outcome was supposed to be back in April, tells me that Lance doesn't think things through. Some people might say that's impulsive, ill-advised. I don't know. I'm not sure what that means. But it does indicate that I have little faith that Lance will in fact comply with the contractual agreements that we roughed out yesterday. Now, my attorney agrees. He says, listen, he's not holding his breath that Lance will in fact follow through. But that's the way life is. I guess there's only a few guarantees. I think it's called death and taxes. I think that's historically what it is. So we will see what happens. Now, I accidentally, through the just good luck, did a brilliant thing. The meeting started at 9 in the morning, and we're sitting there, and about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm getting hungry. My attorney's getting hungry. And Lance, and I assume his attorney, Tom, are getting hungry, and our mediator's getting hungry. So I didn't see that we were close to ending. And the last thing I like to do is try to think and work when I'm hungry. It tends to make me not make the right decisions. I tend to get crabby, ill-tempered. It doesn't work. Being hungry is not a plus when it comes to being in a negotiation. So I suggested that I would like to buy everybody lunch. Now, some people might say, well, why were you buying lunch for Lance and his attorney? Because it's the nice thing to do. You don't want to be a complete jerk. I'm hungry. I'm saying, hey, let's order lunch. Let's get this done. Well, the mediator took me up on my offer, and My attorney took me up on the offer, but Lance and his attorney, I don't know if it was ego, what it was, said, oh no, they're fine. Now, how many people refused lunch being purchased by someone else? I mean, you can get whatever you want. I had no problem with it. We're all hungry. We're trying to get the job done. And in hindsight, I realized that's what I expected them to do, maybe not consciously. So how did this turn to my advantage? Well, because as the day got shorter and shorter, as we were approaching 4 o'clock, you could tell that these people wanted to get home to their families, whatever they were doing. So as I kept reviewing the contract, my attorney would bring the contract into me, then we'd walk it over to the mediator and his other attorney, then they'd walk it to Lance, and it just did this sort of circle thing. I kept saying, no, that's not right. We would rephrase some of the sections. For example, Lance wanted to eliminate the warranty. Excuse me. And I thought, no, you get a 1-year warranty with a house being built in Wisconsin. And I said, unacceptable, not going to work. They buckled, they folded in less than a minute. And part of it, I think, is it was late in the day. They were tired, and I was right, and they were hungry. So if you have the opportunity to go through mediation, make sure the opposition is hungry and tired. Because as the mediation got closer and closer to quitting time, they weren't putting up a fight at all. No resistance at all. Because their focus was on food and going home. And I thought, isn't that amazing? I didn't plan it this way, but it just sort of fell in my lap. It was very nice because for the last 30 minutes, as I was going through the contract with a fine-tooth comb, I kept saying, no, 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 kept modifying it. Not big modifications, but ones that were to my advantage. And ultimately, to Lance, it specified what was expected. It wasn't vague general terms, which could be interpreted in 20 different ways. It was typical, how would I say, it was typical me. It had to be spelled out. We had to have a decision. I didn't want things subject to interpretation and end up with 6 months from now when Lance, I think, will fall on flat on his face, suddenly going, well, that's not what the contract meant. Anybody who reads that contract is going to go, no, this is what the contract means. Now, one of the examples of what I did, and it really got Lance pissed off, and that was not my intent, is that a number of items had been damaged and gone missing from the job site. And Lance, of course, would have nothing to do with reimbursing me. So now, when the subcontractors show up, I have to have 24-hour notice. I have to have exactly what they're going to be doing. They can't just show up and tell me what they're going to be doing. I need to know that what they're doing is, I already know, 24 hours in advance. They have to produce a government-issued ID for me to record. And I'm going to take their picture to make sure it agrees with the ID. So people say, why? Well, when you have theft on a job site and you call the police department and say, hey, this stuff's been stolen, the first thing the police are going to say is, do you know who did it? Who was here? Well, now I'll have a picture of their ID with address, a picture of them, both the ID and them, date and time. And I made it clear that since Lance was unwilling to guarantee the security of construction items on the site, that I was going to call the police anytime something was missing. Seems reasonable to me. If someone comes into your house and stuff goes missing, you call the police. And to say he was a little rocked back on his heels is an understatement. But given his past performance of letting things be stolen and saying it wasn't his fault, didn't work. That time, it's not going to work now. And I'll be upfront with all the subs that, listen, the reason this is being done is for security reasons. Your security and my security. Well, so when will construction start? I have no freaking idea. And ultimately, I do care, but I'm not wrapped around the axle. It's not going to be the kind of thing where I'm sitting there going, where are they? Where are they? I need to know. I need to know. The house is secure. I've got the extra insulation in the attic to protect the plumbing. I'm slowly assembling items in the house. So it'll be done when it's done. And no one was willing to put a start date or an end date. But my attorney, Anthony, said, listen, if it takes more than 6 months, there's going to be a problem. Oh, one of the other issues was the vinyl siding on the house, as you all know, was improperly installed. And Certainteed, the company who I purchased the vinyl siding from, will not warranty the siding. Because I had one of their representatives come out, Paul House, who looked at it and said, nope, it can't be warranted. It was improperly installed. Now, just to give you an idea, that's $25,000. Yes, you heard me right. $25,000 of siding and labor. Well, when we told Lance he would have to replace it, well, understandably, he had a heart attack. Well, not a literal heart attack, but it really he dug his heels in. So we already know, my attorney and I already know, that Certainteed will not warranty this installation. We already know from our forensic inspector, who works for Certainteed as an inspector, that Certainteed will not warranty items that are removed and reinstalled. And that's just the nature of the business with siding companies, siding manufacturers. So we gave him the A-B choice, like you would with a recalcitrant 2 or 3-year-old. I'm not saying Lance acts like a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old. Don't misconstrue that. I would never say that. So what we did is we told Lance, and I do love my attorney, he looked at me and said, let's give him a choice. He said he used to do this with his 2-year-old son years ago. And so we said to Lance, hey, this is what's going to happen. You're going to agree to the following. You'll have your guys come out and repair it. You'll have Certainteed come out if you want ahead of time and either say it's warranted or it's not warranted. We assume, if Paul, our inspector, is right, Certainteed's going to go, no, not warranted. So Lance will then have to repair it. And then in the contract we have with him, Lance has to have Certainteed representative come back out and inspect it and say, write a letter saying it is warranted or it's not. Well, our money is on, the inspector will come out for Certainteed and go, nope, it's not warranted. And then Lance is going to have to spend $25,000 pulling it all off and having it done all over again. And this will be on top of the cost he's going to have to pay to have the siding removed and reinstalled. And we called Paul during the meeting. Obviously, just Anthony and I called him privately. And we said to him, what did he think was going to happen? He said, Paul said, he's in the business for generations. He said, well, if you pull off the siding, you have to number it, determine where it is, put a diagram, and then attempt to reinstall it. He said the labor costs will kill you. He said it's so much cheaper relatively just to rip all the siding off and buy new siding and reinstall it correctly. He said anybody who tries to take the siding off, mark it, label it, put it back where it belongs correctly is going to spend a fortune in labor. Now, I'm not a contractor. I have no idea if that's true or not, but it's going to be part of the journey to see if in fact it's true. And I suspect it is going to be true. I don't know, but I'm looking forward to it, which is kind of a perverse thing given what I've gone through in the last year or two with Lance. But it's the only choice I have. It isn't like there's a choice B or a choice C. So I might as well enjoy the journey that's been given to me as opposed to being pissed off and angry about not getting my way. So lots of other things went on in the contract negotiations. Some of them relevant, some of them irrelevant. But it worked out. So the bottom line is Lance is now contractually obligated to complete the house as previously decided 2 years ago when the project started. And now, if he fails to do it, we get to take him to real court. Not mediation, not arbitration, but real court. And going in front of a judge is going to be a whole lot more different than going in front of a mediator whose history, whose background is being a construction guy, builds houses. The house is in good condition, needs a lot done to it, and Lance will have to get it done. But what a waste of money and time. Like I said, I told Lance at the beginning, do not hire a lawyer. Worst idea in the world. Then he hires a lawyer. Well, one thing I've learned is you have to hire a lawyer back. If you try to go up against a lawyer, you'll get your butt cleaned. It just is that way. So hopefully over the next 6, 7, 8, 9 months, the house will be finished. The story will continue to unfold. It's not the focus of my life right now. It's simply just one of the many things in my life. Now, a little background, what we're doing today is people keep asking, well, where do you live? Well, I've been showing you where I live. This is the 18 acres I have with the pond. You've seen the pond. The house is way out there in the distance. The shipping containers where I store the cars are out there. And so this is my place. I bought it in 2004. There's a friend who has his hunting stand, a muddy. You're allowed to bow hunt here. So I let Tim and Nathan do it. They're just great people. And the tree line is the end of my property. All of this is my property. The pot farm is over there that I've told you about, but it's being torn down. And it's cold today. As you can see, there's frost. Man, it must be 30 degrees. I'm a little chilly. And my nose is running. I'm coughing a little bit. But overall, it's beautiful out here. You can see the sky is gorgeous. The sun's coming up. It is just gorgeous. So I try to focus on the positives in life, the benefits, the beautiful things I have, the friends, family, because that's really where it's at. Little irritations like Lance, it's not life and death. It's not like going back to Iraq like I was there for 2003, 2004. You know, it's a pretty good deal. So life goes on. I hope you're all having a good time. I love you all. I want you to have happy, fulfilling lives, friends, family, things to do, and realize that life is always good. So I will say goodbye and thank you.